Twist that screwdriver in quiet.
Here's something that stopped me in my tracks. 75% of fathers report never being asked how they're doing. Not on Father's Day, not any day. That's 3 out of 4 dads carrying their emotional weight completely alone.
That's such a striking statistic. What do you think that says about how we view fatherhood in our society?
Well, it points to this fascinating disconnect in how we treat different types of caregivers. You know how Mother's Day is this outpouring of emotional appreciation? Cards filled with heartfelt messages, deep conversations about feelings. But Father's Day? We're stuck in this loop of hardware store gift cards and new socket sets.
Oh my goodness, you're right. I literally just ordered my dad a new power drill for Sunday.
And here's what's really interesting about that. These gift choices reflect a deeper societal pattern. We've essentially reduced fathers to their utility value. They're the fixers, the problem solvers, the silent support system.
That reminds me of something that happened with my uncle last month. He's always helping everyone with their home repairs, but when he needed help moving some furniture, nobody even thought to offer.
Exactly. And what's fascinating is that this pattern creates this cycle of emotional isolation. These father figures become so accustomed to being the helper that they often don't know how to ask for help themselves.
That actually explains why my dad seemed so uncomfortable when I asked him about his feelings about retirement last week.
You know what research has shown? When men are given permission and space to express emotions regularly, they actually become more effective supporters for others. It's like this untapped potential for deeper connections we're missing out on.
That makes so much sense. How can someone provide emotional support if they've never been shown it's okay to need it themselves?
And here's another layer to consider. This isn't just about biological fathers. Think about all the mentors, coaches, teachers who step into these paternal roles. They're all caught in the same emotional straitjacket.
Well, that's bringing up some memories of my high school basketball coach. He was there for every crisis, every celebration. But I don't think anyone ever asked him how he was managing his own life.
Right, and what's really powerful is when we start making these small changes in how we interact. Instead of just calling when we need help with something, what if we started having regular check-ins where we explicitly ask about their feelings, their stress levels?
So what kind of responses do you typically get when you try that approach?
Well, it's fascinating, actually. At first, there's often this hesitation, like they're not sure if they're allowed to admit they need support. But once they realize it's a genuine invitation to share, the conversations become incredibly rich.
That's making me think about all the missed opportunities for connection we've had over the years.
And here's what I think is really powerful about this. When we start having these conversations, we're not just helping the current generation of father figures. We're modeling a new way of being for everyone coming up behind us.
That's such an important point about breaking these generational patterns.
Let me share something I've been experimenting with, what I call the daily check-in practice. It's simple. Just a quick message or call that asks, "How are you really doing today?" But the key is consistency and genuine interest in the answer.
That sounds so straightforward, but I can imagine how transformative it could be over time.
And here's another crucial aspect. We need to normalize the idea that it's okay for father figures to take breaks, to admit when they're overwhelmed, to accept help. Think about how rarely we see that modeled in our society.
Well, that's bringing up something interesting. How do we balance showing appreciation for their strength while also making space for vulnerability?
That's such a great question, and I think the answer lies in expanding our definition of strength. True strength isn't about never needing help. It's about being honest enough to admit when you do.
That's really shifting my perspective on what I want to do this Father's Day and beyond.
So let's talk about specific changes people can make. Maybe it's a weekly coffee date where phones are put away and real conversations happen. Or maybe it's a monthly project where you work alongside each other, creating space for natural dialogue.
Those sound like such meaningful alternatives to the usual gift-giving routine.
And here's what I think is really powerful about this approach. It acknowledges that emotional support isn't a one-way street. When we create these spaces for authentic connection, everyone benefits. The supporters get supported, the fixers get fixed, and we all grow together.
That feels like such a more meaningful way to honor the father figures in our lives.
So as we look ahead to Father's Day and beyond, let's challenge ourselves to go beyond the traditional gifts. Let's start conversations that matter, create spaces for real connection, and show up for the people who have always shown up for us. Because at the end of the day, that's what real love and connection are all about.